Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story is about a neighbor who decided that a children's treehouse was an unacceptable offense and took it upon himself to destroy it while the family was away. What he didn't realize was that the tree he damaged was protected by law, and his smug confidence would eventually collide with permits, footage, and a very expensive lesson. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. My neighbor destroyed my kid's treehouse and a 150-year-old heritage tree. Last spring, the dream took shape in the form of lumber, bolts, and childhood sketches. My kids, Ben, 10, and Lucy, 7, had campaigned for a treehouse with the diplomatic fever of a geopolitical summit. We settled on a design, a modest 2-story fortress with a pulley-operated bucket system for secret snacks and a faded canvas awning for shade, all cradled in the majestic, sprawling arms of the ancient white oak that dominated our backyard. We did it right. I pulled the permit from the county. I studied the residential building code for accessory structures until my eyes crossed. The project consumed our weekends, filled with the music of a handsaw, the scent of pine, and the triumphant shouts of kids hoisting up the final plank. Our neighbor to the west, Mr. Alistair Granger, hated it from the moment the first platform took form. His property, a manicured expanse of sterile lawn and rigid ornamental shrubs, ended where our wilder, tree-dotted yard began. The oak, in his view, was merely a backdrop for his azaleas. Our treehouse was a desecration. His complaints began as passive-aggressive notes in our mailbox, concerned about property values, escalated to muttered comments over the fence, eyesore, and finally crystallized into his official stance, it was an attractive nuisance, and spoiled his view. I met his glares with a neutral smile and a wave. The permit was taped to my window. The tree's trunk was 6 inches inside my property line. The law, I believed, was a sturdy shield. In August, we took the long-awaited trip to Disneyland. We returned a week later, sunburned and laden with plastic lightsabers, to a scene of utter desolation. Treehouse was destroyed. Not a single recognizable piece remained intact. The lumber was splintered into kindling and driven into the dirt like grotesque confetti. The little pirate flag Lucy had sewn in art class was trampled into the mud. The pulley system was a mangled skein of rope and metal, and the oak? My God, the oak. Deep, savage gouges ran down its thick trunk, wounds where something powerful had bitten and clawed. Bark and cambium layer hung in ragged strips. The tree looked shocked, violated. Ben, my pragmatic 10-year-old, just whispered, "Why?" Lucy didn't make a sound. Silent tears welled in her eyes. My rage was a white-hot supernova, but it condensed instantly into something far more dangerous, absolute glacial calm. I walked inside, my movements precise, and pulled up the feed from the security camera mounted on the back gate. Its field of view included the oak's base. Day 2 of our vacation. The timestamp read 9:17 a.m. A pickup truck with a trailer-mounted mini excavator backed into my yard right through the gate they'd clearly forced. And there was Mr. Granger in a polo shirt and khakis, pointing with the authority of a general. He was directing the operator. I watched, my stomach a cold stone, as the excavator's hydraulic arm swung. The bucket didn't delicately disassemble, it swiped. The first blow took out the main support posts. The treehouse didn't fall so much as explode. Within 20 minutes, it was mulch. The final insult was the operator, at Granger's gestured command, using the bucket's corner to deliberately scrape and gouge the oak's trunk on his way out. Cleaning up. I took the tablet, walked out my front door, across my lawn, and rang Alistair Granger's ornate doorbell. He answered, and a smug, triumphant smile was already curling his lips before he even saw the screen. "What's this?" I asked, my voice devoid of all emotion. I held up the footage. He didn't even have the decency to look surprised. He peered at it, then back at me, his smile widening. "That dangerous eyesore? It was a liability. A kid could have fallen. I did you a favor." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial sneer. "You should be thanking me. Saved you from a lawsuit. Besides," he said, "it was built on the utility easement. I had a right to clear it. Safety issue." The easement? That was his play. A 5-foot utility easement ran along the property line, but the oak's trunk and, by extension, the treehouse's main supports were well inside my property. He was betting on ambiguity, on the cost and confusion of a civil property line dispute to bury me. He wanted the screaming match, the threats. He wanted to be the reasonable homeowner besieged by an irrational, emotional neighbor. So I denied him his script. I just looked at him for a long, silent moment, then gave a single, slow nod. I see. I turned and walked back to my house, to my weeping children. I hugged them tightly, made them hot chocolate, and then I got to work. I didn't call a lawyer, not yet. My first call was to a licensed, certified arborist with a reputation for court testimony. A man named Hector arrived in a truck covered in bark dust. He circled the oak for 15 minutes, kneeling, probing the wounds with a thin metal tool, his expression growing more grave by the second. Finally, he stood and brushed his hands on his pants. This tree, he said, pointing to the gouges, is a 150-year-old white oak. Was in perfect health. Now it's a corpse standing up. That machine didn't just wound the bark, it shredded the critical root zone and the vascular cambium. It can't transport water or nutrients. It'll decline over the next 2 or 3 years. When it dies, it'll be a significant hazard due to its size and location. Removal? He let out a low whistle. With cranes, traffic control to avoid your house and his, you're looking at $40,000, $50,000 minimum. The number hung in the air. My second call was to myself, or more precisely to my filing cabinet. I pulled the thick, daunting folder from our home purchase, buried in the addendums, disclosures, and title insurance paperwork. I remembered a single line I glossed over about vegetation. After 20 minutes of searching, I found it. A historical vegetation covenant filed by the original subdivision developer in the 1970s. My eyes raced over the legalese. It designated 17 specific heritage trees throughout the neighborhood, protecting them in perpetuity. Our oak was tree number 12. The county ordinance it referenced had teeth. Any willful damage, destruction, or removal of designated heritage tree shall result in a civil penalty of not more than $1,000 per inch of trunk diameter, measured at standard breast height. I got my measuring tape, 36 inches. I didn't sue Mr. Granger, I reported him. I became a bureaucrat's dream. I compiled a package, the arborist damning, notarized report, a USB drive with the security footage neatly clipped to show the willful act, a highlighted copy of the covenant and the county ordinance, photographs of the destruction and my children's heartbreaking faces, and a calmly worded cover letter requesting enforcement. I sent it to the County Environmental Protection Division, the County Code Enforcement, the Historical Preservation Society, and the State Department of Forestry. I sent it certified mail. For months, nothing happened. The seasons changed, leaves fell from the wounded oak earlier than from the other trees. Granger would see me in the yard and offer that same smirk, now tinged with confusion that I hadn't erupted. I'd smile back, a small, tight smile that seemed to unnerve him more than any shout. He'd hurry inside. Then in early spring, the wheels of government finally ground into motion. A county inspector sedan pulled up, then a truck from the Historical Society. They took their own measurements, their own photos. They interviewed me. They tried to interview Granger, who refused and called his lawyer. They reviewed my evidence. I saw them standing under the oak's skeletal branches, shaking their heads in unison. The reckoning arrived on a bright Tuesday morning. A different county official, a woman with the no-nonsense demeanor of a principal, met me in my backyard. Mr. Granger was summoned via official notice to attend. He stood apart, arms crossed, his lawyer a nervous man with a thin briefcase. The official, Miss Vance, didn't bother with pleasantries. She read from a document. Mr. Alistair Granger, County Ordinance 1487B, Preservation of Designated Heritage Flora, trunk diameter of the subject white oak is 36 inches. The stipulated civil penalty is $36,000. Payment is due to the county clerk within 30 days. Granger's face drained of all color. His lawyer started to sputter about easements. Miss Vance cut him off. The easement is for utilities, not for unauthorized demolition. Your client's actions were willful and destructive, as clearly documented. The penalty stands. She then unrolled a set of blueprints. Furthermore, as equitable mitigation for the loss of historical community value and the destroyed recreational structure, you are ordered to fund the construction of a replacement. These are county-approved engineered plans for a freestanding play structure. She handed the roll to Granger. It was not a treehouse. The oak couldn't bear it. but a magnificent multi-platform fort with a crow's nest, a fireman's pole, a rock wall, and a tube slide designed to be installed in the same location. It was objectively 10 times the structure our old one had been. You will hire a licensed contractor to build this to code on your dime within 90 days. County inspections will occur at foundation, framing, and completion. Then the masterstroke. Miss Vance turned to me and handed me an envelope. This is drawn from the surety bond Mr. Granger was required to post with the county for his recent swimming pool installation, $25,000, for material upgrades to the structure at your discretion, and for documented emotional distress and loss of use. I took the envelope, I looked at Ben and Lily, who were watching, utterly rapt. Then I looked at Alistair Granger. The smirk was gone, erased. His face was a hollow mask of financial and spiritual ruin. He wasn't being beaten in a fight, he was being processed by a system he'd assumed was a tool. Miss Vance's final words were perfectly bureaucratic and utterly devastating. The mitigation clock starts today, Mr. Granger. I suggest you get bids. Now, as I write this, I'm sitting on my back porch. The sound is not of birds, but the beautiful percussive symphony of a nail gun and the shouts of a construction crew. In my backyard, rising from the ruins, a magnificent wooden palace paid for in full by the man who destroyed its predecessor. The neighbor has to sit in his sterile, silent house with his perfect view-spoiling azaleas and watch it rise. He hears every hammer strike, every child's cheer of anticipation. He has to write the checks. The Heritage Tree Covenant is a kind of detail that feels boring until it turns into a financial guillotine. $1,000 per inch is not a slap on the wrist. It's a "you're going to remember this in your retirement planning" number. And tying mitigation to a replacement play structure is perfect. It restores what was lost while forcing him to fund joy on the exact ground he tried to sterilize. And our next story. Supervisor causes worker to quit due to asinine logic. My first job after I graduated high school was working at a grocery store. Part-time, minimum wage, no benefits, crap schedule. This story happened before I started college, in the fall, so I had only time to work and make money. This story is 7 years old. While I was there was a period of some people quitting, and they struggled to get more employees to fill the gap. I wanted more hours, and I went from 16 hours to 28 to 32 hours a week. My schedule was clear, and I had nothing to do besides work, and I definitely wanted drinking money for when I got to college later. At that wage, it still wasn't enough, so I figured I'd look for a second job. As soon as I landed a job that was full-time, Coca-Cola distributor, and told my supervisor that I got a second job and I could only work certain hours and days since I would be working elsewhere, typical weekdays with overtime occasionally, there was plenty of shift times to accommodate the change, and I was mostly working night shifts and weekends at the grocery store. This was fine for the first week, until there was a schedule conflict on one of the shifts, and I told my supervisor I was unable to work a shift due to my other job, and I needed them to switch the shift with someone else. Supervisor countered my request, stating that they refused to work around another job schedule and was concerned I would be working too much at a young age, so they told me I could not work both jobs. I quit on the spot with no notice given because I was already working 2 jobs and unable to work at both, according to her. Her reaction was that I could absolutely not just quit and that I had to give 2 weeks' notice. My response: "You told me I could not work both jobs, and I have to work there next Tuesday when you scheduled me. So no, I don't think I will." Good for you for pushing back on the whole "you have to give 2 weeks' notice" nonsense. F 'em. And our last story. Dishonest neighbor finds himself unable to sell his house. Years ago, my neighbor was trying to sell his house during the fall, and he was selling it for incredibly more than it was worth, almost 6 figures higher. To make the property seem worth that figure, he would wake up early in the morning and take a leaf blower and blow the leaves past his front lawn into our backyard, and then some, making it seem like his front yard went all the way to our driveway and also included our beautiful tree, older than all the homes in the area combined. We never had a backyard fence because his kids were my age and we'd all play on the swing attached to that tree together. We were all cool. My dad wasn't too keen on this because he didn't want to get in a property dispute with the new owner, so he found the official property lines, and guess what? His front lawn ended about 3 feet from his house. So my dad bought some little stakes with orange ribbons and hammered them into the ground to show where the actual property line was. Next day, they were gone, thrown into the woods that surround us. My dad fetched them, nailed them back in, and knocked on the door asking him to cut the crap. Next day, gone once again with a passive-aggressive note on our door. My dad is a rather intimidating guy when frustrated, and he was apparently too scared to be confrontational, saying we need to just be cool with it and let him do his scam so he can sell the house. My dad then decided to up the ante and went to a hardware store and bought 4 12-foot iron rods, took out his ladder, and used the backside of an axe to nail it about 8 to 9 feet into the ground, then watered the grass or did something so it couldn't just be yanked right out. Now there were just 4 ugly rods poking out of the lawn with bright orange ribbon tied to the top. My family goes away for a weekend, came back Monday, and all 4 are gone, tossed into the woods, and our backyard in those 4 spots are trashed with little holes from where he spent hopefully a long time digging those bad boys up. Obviously, my dad was furious, and he just silently stood there for about 20 minutes with a burning rage deep inside, and our entire family could hear him scheming. He turned around, hopped back in the car, and disappeared for hours, only to return with a tow truck coming behind him. He popped over to a junkyard, found essentially a frame of a car, and bought it for its worth in metal, then had it shipped to his backyard, which he plopped just before that property line. My dad walked into our house like a great conqueror, saying, "Let's see him throw that into the woods." The neighbors showed up later that afternoon, followed by prospective buyers who just stood in his driveway, gawking at the junker 4 feet from the house. He tried to brush it off, and as soon as they left, he came over just yelling about how he's going to call the cops on us and home association for depreciating the value of his property, which my dad said, "Sure, go ahead. I'll let him know about what you've been pulling for the past few weeks." Eventually, they came to the agreement that the junker would leave the yard if he paid to have it removed and shipped away, and ever since, he stopped messing with the yard and stopped messing with the leaves. There's not even a chance of this person being rational. Sounds like too much extra time and money. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.